What is going on, everybody? My name is Jacob. I have been a die-hard Pistons fan since 2003, and I am eager to see this team getting back to playing winning basketball. We have some news fresh hot off the press here that the Pistons went ahead and hired J.B Bickerstaff. I knew that this was going to be coming quickly as far as a coaching announcement goes, but I did not expect it to happen right now this morning today, so just a little bit blindsided as I didn't hear too much intel about the coaching search coming internally. So in this video, we're going to talk about J.B Bickerstaff's history in the NBA, his identity as a coach, what I think he brings to the table, and towards the end of the video, I will let you know if I think this is a good hire, bad hire, or somewhere in between. So getting to know J.B Bickerstaff and where he has been and what he has done in this league, I went ahead and pulled up his history as a coach in the NBA here. He started off in Charlotte with the Bobcats, underneath his father, Bernie Bickerstaff, who was a longtime NBA guy, worked in the league, played in the league for forever, like 40 plus years. So he was underneath him as an assistant from a super young age, officially starting at 25 years old, which is pretty crazy to think about. After 3 years in Charlotte, he went ahead and moved on to Minnesota, where he coached underneath Kurt Rambis for a while, and I think they might have had a couple other coaches in there during that time. Not great teams, either of them, but also, better than what the Pistons are working with right now to a degree. After his time in Minnesota, he went over to Houston, where he was an assistant for quite some time, about 4 years during that early 2010s era. After Kevin McHale had either stepped down or got fired at some point, he did take over as the head coach for 1 year, where he did actually go above 500, 37-34, and that was before he left for Memphis. After his time in Memphis as an assistant, he was quickly hired in as a head coach after, I believe, David Fizdale, and he took over the team in a pretty similar position to where the Pistons are now. They were just not good. His first year there, they went 15-48. Second year there was pretty good improvement, going to 33-48. After 2 years in Memphis, he did go to Cleveland, where he was an assistant for 1 year. After that, he took over for the last 5 years, of course, before getting fired this offseason after losing in the playoffs. During his time in Cleveland, he took over a team that was pretty poor. The team was actually right there with us back in 2020 or so. Of course, we got Cade first in that draft. After us, it was the Cavs picking Evan Mobley. And during his time in Cleveland, there has definitely been a lot of contradictory opinions, a lot of people with different thoughts on his time there, but let's just kind of talk about it. So when he came into Cleveland, right away, he did some stuff that was kind of crazy to a lot of people, and number one was starting 3 7-footers together, which eventually turned into 2, kind of with the Twin Tower thing. But when he first was there, like the first lineups that I remember J.B Bickerstaff really leaning into was that 3 7-foot lineup with Lauri Markkanen, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen on the floor all at the same time. J.B Bickerstaff's kind of top identity, or what he is known as, is more of a defensive-minded coach. So let's talk a little bit about how that works towards the Pistons, and also how he was able to improve this team during his time in Cleveland, and how that kind of fits into the Pistons. So the Pistons, of course, we all know where we're at right now. We have a lot of young talent on the team. The past 2 years, we have taken 2 guys with very questionable jump shots at best. Of course, Asar Thompson and Ron Holland, that are both known as pretty solid defenders. Right now, Jalen Duren has a long ways to go to be a good defender, as does Ivy and Cade. So realistically looking at this, he's going to have a pretty different type of roster to deal with than what he did in Cleveland. During his time in Cleveland, he did go to that 2 big lineup very, very often, but the team actually did look better at times with just one of them on the floor. Of course, when Jared Allen or Mobley got hurt for a while there this season is when they went on a big run. And then during the playoffs, they also went to that 1 big lineup a little bit more often and saw some success with it. Now, does he really have a choice here in Detroit? Not really. The closest thing that we can do is what we were doing under Monty, and that was starting beef stew at the 4 along with Jalen Duren. So I think J.B Bickerstaff's going to go ahead and kind of try a few different things that maybe he wasn't doing in Cleveland as far as lineup construction goes. There's no possible way that he runs a 3 7-foot lineup on our roster, because we don't even have 3 7-footers on the team. So he's going to have his hands kind of full here and his hands tied with the lineups that he can run. But it will be interesting to see if his defensive minded coaching does help translate and maybe get Duran on the right track defensively. Maybe he's able to unlock some cool things with Holland and Asar. But overall, it is concerning for the offense. Now, as far as his time in Cleveland goes, he was able to turn the team around quite a bit. Of course, they went 22-50 in his first full season as a head coach, and then they jumped up big time, going 44-38 the next season. And after that, they were like a top 4 team in the East almost every year. But realistically, Donovan Mitchell showed up, Darius Garland broke out, Jared Allen showed up, Evan Mobley showed up. We don't have Donovan Mitchell on our team. I think that if we did, we'd probably have a better chance at having him turn this around quickly. So that's definitely always hard to kind of be able to look at, when you see a guy who's able to come into a spot and turn a franchise around, but the talent gets added. So it's like, where do you really credit the improvement to, right? The coach or the huge jump in talent? So it's kind of hard to actually look at that and think about it to see if he'd be able to replicate that here in Detroit. But either way, we definitely do have a long ways to go. So I don't think that he's going to be on a super short time crunch here to make things happen. I made a video a couple days ago about the coaches that I would like to see hired. I kind of just blew through my time talking about J.B Bickerstaff because transparently, he isn't exactly the guy I wanted. I personally wanted to hire a first-time head coach that felt like they maybe had a chip on their shoulder, something to prove, someone who felt like if they failed, that might be their only opportunity they ever got. I wanted somebody who was pretty young and able to grow with our team and our young players. But with J.B Bickerstaff, he's not exactly none of those things. For one, he's only 45 years old. For two, I feel like he probably should, or probably does feel like he maybe got slighted during his time in Cleveland. I think there's a lot of people out there who, didn't really feel like it was necessary to fire him. So maybe that will bring some type of chip on his shoulder. But realistically, I just didn't want another long-term NBA head coach, a guy who's been around forever, because we already tried that with Monty and it didn't work out very well. Now, I do think that this will go better than Monty's time here. I don't think it could honestly be worse. I wasn't king anti-Monty like a lot of fans, but looking back on it now, I think we made the right decision to move on, and I'm happy that Gores was willing to put that money out there and get rid of him. But overall, I'm not going to say it's a great hire, and I'm not going to say it's a bad hire. What I will say is, transparently, it wasn't the guy who I wanted a couple days ago, but I am more than happy to give him a chance here. I'm definitely not against this hire. I would have preferred a first-time coach like Sean Sweeney or Chris Quinn, but overall, I think it's the hardest thing for a fan to judge a coach. I really do. Unless you're in the locker room every day, it's really hard to know what type of impact they're truly having. It's really hard to be able to tell what is what, who's calling shots, and everything in between. So honestly, all you can do is pay attention to rotations, pay attention to schemes, and then watch press conferences and try and draw your conclusions there. But even then, that only gives you a small percentage of insight, which actually goes into a head coaching role in the NBA. So take my opinions on it with a grain of salt. I'm not ecstatic about this hire, but I'm more than okay with this hire. That's what I'll say about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with this team. I'm excited for the season. I'm happy that we got a coach in place here before free agency and summer league. So overall, I'm excited. Not ecstatic, but I'm excited. So we'll see how it goes. Catch y'all soon.